So welcome, welcome, welcome. So we are on the winter solstice, and we get to explore this evening some of what that means for us, set some intentions as we start thinking about the new year. And I have a guest, special guest, Ashley Johnson, who's a business astrologer. She's someone I've been mentoring and working with over the last couple of years, and I think she'll have some really wonderful things to contribute to the conversation. So let me just say a little bit about myself, because some of you are new to this call. For about 20, 30 plus years, I've been working with a process called life mapping. Really supporting myself and others to manifest their vision of their life and how they kind of create the life in the world that they want to live in. I'm a business coach, author, and business organizational consultant. And we have this call quarterly on either the solstice or close to the solstice and the equinox in the spring and fall. And really a chance to ground, to just take a pause and think about where we are and what's needed next or now as we move forward through the next quarter or the next 90 days. And just have some community time, actually. People often will have a time for questions and answers, and we'll hear from Ashley. First, I'd like to just have you take a breath. This is a busy time of year, and many of us are about out of steam in terms of our energy level. So if you could just take a moment to breathe with me, feel your feet on the floor, wiggle your toes, feel the chair if you're sitting, supporting your back and your body. And just get present. Give yourself a chance to empty your lungs completely as possible. And then blow a little bit more out, get all that gook out from the day, and allow them to fill back up. And now that you're present and grounded, you're in your body, take a moment just to pay attention to your heart. If you could hear it beating, you can allow yourself to hear it beating. If you can just take a moment to get a glimpse of the light and the love that is in your heart. All that light and love would like to express. Now I invite you to think about your intention for this call. There may be a question that's been lingering that can be answered during this call. There may be encouragement or some knowledge that you want to receive by being on this call that will support you as you move forward. So now let us begin. So I'm going to introduce Ashley in a moment, but first I want to say a few words about the winter solstice. In the northern hemisphere, this is the shortest day and the longest night. In fact, at the North Pole, the sun will not rise for 24 hours or so. And then as the world begins to shift and move around on its axis, the days starting today will get longer. And it brings a very interesting energy to us here in the North American continent that allows us to have time for reflection, to move into our heart, to connect with our light, to breathe in love, and to do some inner nurturing. You know, it's the time of year, it's winter, it's the official time that winter begins. So everything gets quiet in nature during the winter. And this is a time to really go in and explore and rest and rejuvenate and prepare for spring. So there's the opportunity to step into your evolutionary purpose, as some might put it, to your purpose, and begin to see how you need to move with that energy. And the opportunity to send positive energy, peace, and love into the world as we step into 2018. So I'm going to stop there, and I want to introduce Ashley Johnson. She's a business astrologer. She supports entrepreneurs, small business owners in understanding what their intuition is telling them into really giving some data to go behind what your intuition is saying. Ashley, I just love Ashley's energy, and her insights are really great. She's been doing some wonderful posts on Instagram that have just become part of my daily reading as well. So Ashley, you want to say a few words, and then we can talk about, you know, from an astrological perspective, what the solstice is bringing, and what we should look forward to going into the new year. Oh, I gotta unmute you.
All right. Hey, everybody. Like Monika said, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm Ashley Johnson, and like she said, I do business astrology. And I find that I love what you said, Monika, about giving data to inform what your intuition is doing. And that's so dead on, and that's exactly what I do. My job is to help you sharpen your intuition. And as entrepreneurs, your intuition is one of, if not the most important thing for you to have, because that's what guides you and allows you to think, you know what, I want to make something that nobody else is making, or I want to, you know, create this thing, and I have.
Oops. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Um, but yeah, it's about utilizing what you already have and not focusing so much on, yes, we address your shortcomings, but it's about using what you have and using the energy, what's happening with the stars and the planets, and utilizing all of that to your advantage. And that is really what mostly this winter solstice is about, and also 2018. And I know, Monika, if you had anything you wanted to add on the winter solstice piece. But
No, I think let's talk about. I think it's an opportunity for us to also to reflect on the year that is coming to an end. You know, we all had goals and opportunities, and there are places where we really were shine, got to shine and were our best. And then there are places where we may have fallen short of what we thought would happen. And then there were all those unexpected things, both positive and those that maybe didn't feel so good, but gave us lessons. And I think when it's time for closing any event or experience, it's a good time to reflect on what were the gains, what were the lessons that we learned. For me, I've been really paying attention to, I had a lot of travel this year, more than usual, and I really was starting to pay attention to what did I need to do for myself, how did, what kind of care did I need to provide myself on the road so that I could stay healthy and also do my best work. And that's been some interesting lessons and journeys. Just around what kind of environments do I need to be in, what kind of accommodations do I need, what kind of schedule do I need. Some things I already knew, but then I learned some new things this year. I don't know if what other people have been working on. I'd be curious to find out. I'm going to unmute folks on the phone, and then if you want to just make a statement around kind of one thing that you've been learning or working on this year.
I would say discipline, and just like what that means to me and what it looks like to be disciplined in like my spiritual practice and also in my work life. That's been really big for me this year.
Great. And as we move into this season of doing in the next couple of years, and Ashley, you can talk about that more later, that's going to be really important. Others, just say your name and then one thing that you've been learning or working on.
I'll speak. I'm Monika. This entire year has been full of, growth that comes from a lot of unexpected and creative upheaval in my environment that then forces me into really letting go of any notions I have about the right time to do something, the right way to do something, and letting myself rise and fall and learn from these changing circumstances. Usually I change more on the inside than I see the outside changing, but this year has flipped everything.
Yeah. A lot has happened this year. Anyone else want to chime in at this point?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Celine.
I don't mind. Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. My name is Jalen, and I kind of jumped in late, so I don't know if, anyone else has said this, but this year I'm grateful for, and I learned a lot about letting go and I guess surrender and like releasing control. I like things to go my way typically, and if something isn't going in the direction that I think it's supposed to, my initial response used to be to, hold on tighter to that or try and pull it in the direction that I want it to go. And this year has just kind of taught me a lot about learning how to let things go where they will and kind of act on what is willing to work with me and not against me.
Oh, thank you. That's a great lesson to learn, especially these times when things are changing so fast. Next.
Good evening. This is Chandra. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, I'm Salam. I just wanted to share that this year has taught me a lot about letting other people support me. I tend to often be the giver and not really put myself in a position to receive from other people. And so this year has really just let me ask for what I want and watch people just show up and support me. And it's been hard not being in a position to give as much, but it's also been really great to learn that there are people who are willing to support you if you just ask for what you want and what you need.
Wonderful. And Chandra?
Yeah, I was going to share that I continue to really learn the different ways and the different forms and the different manifestations of being able to be still and to really rest. So just in a variety of different ways, is really understanding what it really means to be still and what all the different ways that rest looks like and all the different ways that I need rest.
That's great. Yeah, it's funny because these last few months, the last 30 days or so, I've actually been resting and waking up without an alarm and on my own. It's been a new experience for me after a lifetime of not enough sleep and alarms. Someone was about to
Awesome.
Hey, this is TL.
Yeah.
And I agree that I've been sort of enjoying having some support from people because that can be difficult for me at times to ask for help. And so that has been a big one for me. And letting go and being open heart and open minded so that I can find some new solutions that I just, was putting a hand up to and saying, nope, don't want to do that. Nope, 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 nope. And then opening my mind a little bit and seeing that thing that I'm absolutely saying no to could be the exact solution I'm looking for.
And what's been the impact of you allowing yourself to be supported and being open-minded?
Well, there's just a lot more flow. If people want to help you, and then you can sort of help them, and there's just this nice energy flow for them. And you can just kind of, if you decide to let go and be open-hearted and minded, then you can just see what comes your way. And oftentimes, it's a lot better than what you would have or could have asked for.
Great. Great. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Vivek. I've been trying this year, instead of just being driven by my circumstances, to be more intentional and, start taking steps toward the things I've always wanted to do instead of just waiting around. So I think it's the same. I'm just going to continue to do that next year. I think I kind of started late this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? So Ashley, I'm going to invite you to share some of what you've been paying attention to this year in terms of how the energy's been moving and what we have to look forward to or should be paying attention to next, in the coming months. I know that Saturn's doing something, but I read something about it, but I didn't really understand it. So maybe you could share.
Sure. So, like Monika was saying, 2017 has really been an interesting year. A lot has happened. A lot of things are being revealed. I mean, we've been, hearing a lot about all these sex scandals and harassment and just political issues we're having. And I think that this is really somewhat of just the beginning. 2017 was very much a year of starting to draw out the poison and pull all the skeletons out of the closet, or at least start the process of doing that so that we can rebuild and create new structures. And that actually leads me directly into Saturn. Saturn is the planet that deals with restructuring and establishing things, and it's being an authority, it's discipline, working hard, that consistent effort. It's about integrity, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. Saturn is a taskmaster. It's what we think of when we think of, how people say adulting and all of that. It's responsibility. It's our commitment. And Saturn is at home in Capricorn. If you know any Capricorn sun sign folks, they can be a little bossy, but they're also hardworking and put a lot of effort into what they do and things like that. And so with Saturn being in Capricorn, well, actually I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Saturn moves in about 28 to 30 year cycles. And so when you are about 28 to 30, you have what's called your Saturn return, at least your first one. Your second one comes at about age 58 to 60, and God willing, you'll see your third one at about 88 to 90. And it's basically a time where you're confronted with the commitments you've made in your life, and you get to decide whether or not you want to continue those commitments or if you would like to change them completely and commit yourself to a new path. So some of you, depending on how old you are, for the folks at 30 or over 30, you may remember like that time period between 28 and 30 was a bit of a doozy because you're figuring it out. And because astrologically speaking, you're not considered an adult until you've gone through your first Saturn return, because that's when you really have time and experience on your side to be able to look back and say, okay, this is where I've taken my life thus far. These are the decisions I've made, and this is where they've gotten me. Now, do I want to choose something different, or do I want to keep going? And with astrology and like anything else, you have free will to do what you please. But as Saturn likes to remind us, because Saturn also deals with karma, your actions have a reaction. What you do has a consequence. And it doesn't always have to be negative. Saturn can, be a little negative Nancy on the flip side. But if you're willing to do the work and do it with integrity and be real about why you're doing the work. And also, if you want to end a commitment, then you have to kind of be adult enough to say why and then follow that up with action and be consistent with it. So with Saturn being in Capricorn, it's going to be in Capricorn until December 17th, 2020. And Saturn just went into Capricorn yesterday. So we have about 3 years, almost to the day, of learning how to really hunker down and do the work. And I love what Monika said earlier about this being the season of doing, because that is such a accurate description of what this is about to be. And Saturn being in Capricorn, it's also going to restructure a lot of our government as well as businesses, because Capricorn governs government and business, corporations. So we're going to see a lot of shifting and changing, and frankly, a lot of entities getting their hands, spanked or their behinds, kind of aggressively, because we're moving into a phase where you need to be doing business in the right way. You have to be conducting yourself, being on the up and up is going to be so important, and doing business with integrity. I know a lot of people, sometimes on online businesses or even face to face, a lot of people have been able to make a lot of money over the years, in really shady ways. And that's really not going to fly during Saturn in Capricorn. It's very much a season of doing the right thing because you want to do the right thing, and you'll be rewarded for it. Sometimes with more responsibility, but Saturn views responsibility more so as an honor, as to say, you've worked hard enough, you have done the work, you've produced something tangible that's going to build a legacy, and it helps support others. And this is why you've been given this responsibility. This is why you've been given this task. And so just with that, and then on top of Saturn and Capricorn, moving into the rest of, well, at least the beginning of 2018, New Year's Day, we have a Cancer full moon. And full moons are when the sun and the moon oppose each other in the sky, and it basically illuminates things that we need to pay attention to, especially in our relationships. And that can be our relationship with others or our relationship with ourselves. And for this Cancer full moon, it's really about how we consider nurturing and what we believe about motherhood and, emotional security, and the daily work of bringing things to fruition and helping things grow. And also just illuminating how we nourish ourselves. And I really find it intriguing how all of this came about, because Saturn being in Capricorn at this time, and then the sun being in Capricorn, and the Cancer full moon kind of coming in at the start of the year, as to say, okay, we've got a whole lot of work to do, but let's check in and see, okay, how are you nourishing yourself? What's your health situation? How do you feel? What are you doing on a daily basis to contribute to your growth or to nurture other people's growth? Cancer runs on the moon rather. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon runs on a 28-day cycle. Now, on the flip side, Capricorn, which is Cancer's opposite sign, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn runs in about a 28-year cycle. So it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy of Cancer being the day-to-day nurturing, and Capricorn being the long-term kind of wide lens nurturing of, being committed to that particular vision. And so with that full moon on the first day of the year, it's a very deeply emotional and reflective time. You may find that you really just want to snuggle up and maybe not even do a crazy party this year, because the energy is just going to be so I want to be home. I want to be inside. I want to really snuggle up and cuddle up and be comfortable. And I don't begrudge anyone who wants to go out and party, but, I will say you may find yourself going home a little earlier than you thought. But the beginning of the year is really a time for us to begin the process of really moving forward. And actually the next day, January 2nd, Uranus, the planet that deals with breakthroughs and radical changes and shifts, it goes direct. It's been retrograde for the last several months, kind of helping us to review our new identity. Uranus is in Aries right now, by the way, helping us kind of review this new identity we've been forming over the last 7 years. We've been doing a lot of deeper kind of mental work with Uranus to figure out, who am I? How do I want to change? What is it that makes me me? And what do I want to express? What do I want to show the world? And we've been kind of honing that over the last 7 years, because Uranus changes signs every about 7 years. And Uranus is going to go into Taurus in May, which is going to be also major for dealing with Taurus things like self-esteem and self-worth, also money and finance. The Uranus and Taurus is really going to shake up our banking industry as well as our food, at least dealing with food and technology, because Uranus also deals with technology. So we may, find that there are more urban farmers or people just growing their own food, or just finding new ways to engage with the earth and engage with the ground. In 2018, actually just a solid year of grounding and manifesting. Two major planets, Saturn and Uranus, they're going to be in Capricorn and Taurus respectively. Those are both earth signs. It's very much a time to begin to create anew. Also, Jupiter is currently in Scorpio and will be until November of 2018. And Jupiter deals with luck and abundance and opportunity and risk. And it's about the rewards you receive from, taking action and what you put out there. And so with Jupiter being in Scorpio, Jupiter can also be too much of a good thing as well. But with Jupiter being in Scorpio and interacting with Uranus and Saturn, it's Scorpio's a water sign. So it's going to be water, Scorpio, and Earth, Capricorn, and Taurus. So there's a lot of fertile ground this year to really manifest and plant seeds and just really get into rapidly creating what it is that you want to see. So, in 2017, if you've been being brutally honest with yourself, Jupiter and Scorpio has definitely lent a more visceral, tone to the lessons that we're learning. Jupiter's been in Scorpio since October 10th of this year. So if you notice since then, you've been getting lessons and paying attention to things, and it's just really pulling from the depths. And it can be really jarring when, we're faced with the opportunity or the risk of really going there and hitting that trauma and that pain and that wounding. And it can be overwhelming, especially with everything on the news and just even in our own daily lives, and just navigating not only your own growth, but, being around other people that are going through the same transits, and learning how to be gentle with yourself, but then also, frankly, being almost kind of parenting yourself in a different way or guiding yourself in a different way. I noticed with a lot of my clients this year, there's been a huge trend of clearing out childhood trauma. And especially with Saturn being in Capricorn, Saturn's about being in authority. So there's definitely going to be, over the next several years, a lot of issues with fathers, navigating those issues with our fathers, and also just with discipline and authority and what it means to be a leader, and redefining what it means to take charge. And I think we're going to see a great deal of growth and a great deal of change, but it's going to take a new level of vulnerability that a lot of us haven't necessarily been accustomed to. But I think as we move forward with Saturn and Capricorn, I think what you'll find is that it also takes a lot of vulnerability in order to be openly committed to something. A lot of people will, say they're about this or about that, or that they're into it or into that, but you never quite see the fruit of that labor. In 2018, and honestly until 2020 with Saturn and Capricorn, it's going to be all about what's the fruit of this labor. People want to see what you're up to. People want to be able to touch and feel and taste and get that sensory experience. And that's actually more Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is more sensory based, but it's a combination of the two. It's like, what are you doing and how can I see the result of what you're doing? Operating in a space where we're just spinning our wheels, it's not going to work anymore. It's very much, Saturn and Sagittarius ran from 2015 until present. And that was much more about getting your vision together, figuring out what you want to do, how you want to do it, trimming the fat and redefining your beliefs. And now that we've got that covered, Saturn and Capricorn is saying, all right, now it's time to work. And being comfortable, or at least learning to be comfortable as possible through working the process and working the plan, is going to be key. Saturn and Capricorn can kind of feel a bit like you're I guess hiding from the teacher, or you want to do well so the teacher will give you a good grade, and or the teacher will slap your hand if you step out of line. And I hate to say it, but that's kind of what it is. It's very much, how can you best maximize the time that you're given? And I will say that Saturn can sometimes push people into wanting to be a workaholic, but it's counterproductive for you to run yourself into the ground. Saturn wants you to be able to produce your best work product. And if you're not able, or if you're not willing to structure your life in a way to support that, then it might be kind of tougher for you. But if you're willing to surrender, as I'm trying to remember who said it earlier today, but surrender is also a keyword for Saturn. It's not always about when you do lead, it's not always about being the big bad man or woman in charge. Leadership is also about surrendering to something that's bigger than yourself. And sometimes you have to surrender to your commitment to something rather than surrendering to feelings of insecurity or feelings of doubt. Because Saturn will also feed on your fear and your doubt and anxiety and worry and multiply that. Saturn is very much about what you put in is what you get out. And that doesn't mean that you can't allow yourself to have those feelings or have those moments, but you also have to operate on the other end of Saturn and say, okay, enough is enough here. This is done. And now we move on. You've had your say. Thank you so much for your feedback, but this is what we're going to do. And one of the things that I think may help you as you move forward with Saturn and Capricorn is that action is the best antidote to fear. The more you can confront your fear and make your fear prove its worth, the better you'll be able to get through this transit. A lot of astrologers will preach doom and gloom over Saturn and Capricorn, and I really don't want to do that. I would much rather you be armed with the knowledge and the ability to face whatever comes at you. Because clearly we've all signed up to be here now. When we're born, you know, the sun's over the horizon and you come out and you draw your breath, and then that begins your chart. That begins your journey. So you somehow signed up to show up here at this time, and we've all signed up to do it together. And so now it's just a matter of allowing yourself to trust yourself and trust that you have what you need to move forward. Because every day you wake up, it's another day for you to utilize to move forward and to do great work, whatever that work is. So, 2018 is it and beyond will be as fruitful as you make it. But you have to plant the seeds. You have to water them. You have to prune away the weeds, and you have to make sure that everything is growing right, and you have to pick the fruit at the right time, and you have to let it ripen, and then everything happens in proper time. So that's pretty much what I have.
Oh, Ashley, thank you so much. Let's open the floor for questions, and then I have some things I want to emphasize as well. I'm going to unmute folks. And if you have questions for Ashley.
Well, I'm just so glad that Saturn is out of Scorpio as of yesterday, because I have had 3 tough years. I follow Susan Miller, and she kept telling me I was going to have some tough times with it, and I thought, nah. But I'm so glad Saturn's moved out of Scorpio, because I am a Scorpio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's been trying at times. So I'm just glad
Scorpios have been going through it.
What was that?
So the Scorpios have been going through it.
Oh, God. Like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, so.
I agree. Sorry. Hi, I'm a Gemini, and yeah, I don't know. The last 2-3 years have been difficult too, but I don't know if that means anything.
Well, actually it does, because Gemini is the opposite sign of Sagittarius. So while Saturn was in Sagittarius, it was like almost literally like sitting across the table from you and like pretty much challenging you the whole way. So
oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I've been searching for a job for right about that much time, and so hopefully things are going to clear up for me, because wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and speak.
No, I was just curious to know why Scorpio has been hard. Like, is there something that has made because I'm a Scorpio too, and I felt it, but I don't know why.
Let's see. At least with 2017, I think a lot of Scorpios were kind of dealing with the fallout, or I guess what was left over from when Saturn was in Scorpio from about 2013 to 2015. And Scorpio is a fixed sign, so it's very difficult, even though Scorpio deals a lot with growth and change, that change doesn't necessarily come easily. It's something that kind of has to be forced upon you, and so it doesn't always, like I notice a lot of Scorpios use Saturn and Sagittarius to almost kind of like, I don't want to say this, it's very much like it took a little bit longer to sink in, and so Saturn and Sag kind of felt more like, this again, like, am I doing this again? Like, really? And it's like you almost had to reprogram your belief system. Like, we all did it, but it's interesting with Scorpio and Sagittarius. I mean, they're right next to each other. So when you have a sign right next to each other, it's almost like it's your neighbor and you know them, but you don't really know them. And yeah, it was kind of a difficult shift to make for Scorpio sometimes, just because they're so fixed. And Saturn and Sagittarius didn't really allow for much give in the way of having a chance to rest and really sit in anything. So yeah.
Thank
What
you. That
about
makes
Aquarius? Like, I feel like I've been kind of like, I'll have some success and then I'll kind of like hit the brakes. Like I'm like right on the cusp of something and then it'll just stop. And I don't know if that has, if that's anything influencing with Aquarius.
Yeah, I'm an Aquarius, so I can definitely attest to that. That was a definite thing. And we're also a fixed sign, so we're a different kind of hard-headed. And but you know what? The funny thing about Aquarius sometimes is that we'll start something and we'll do well at it, and then we'll kind of get freaked out. And we're like, oh my God.
Yeah, like you're doing too well at it, right?
Yeah. You freak out. You're like, wait a minute, but I'm not supposed to do this well. But no, I just started. But wait, what happened? It becomes this whole thing. Right. It's like, no, just keep doing that thing you were doing right there. Like,
it's like
no, it can't be this easy.
You're too good at this.
Yeah. Why is it so easy? This easy. So yeah, it's Aquarius for sure. We've been dealing with a lot of just getting out of our own way, and also learning to be more comfortable with our emotions, which is always a thing. And I hate that everyone says that Aquarius are emotionless. It's not that we lack emotion. It's just we don't know how to express it.
Exactly, because there's a lot
like,
there.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of emotion. Plenty of emotion. And so it's yeah, go ahead.
As a business astrologer, do you think this would be a good time to start a new business?
I would say, actually, let me get my date book out. If you're going to start it, I would say wait until there is a new moon on a Capricorn new moon, in fact, on January 16th. And so in a few days after that, it'd be a good time to start your business. If you're looking to start like soon, like you're ready to like pull the trigger, that will be a good time, because then also Mercury will be out of its shadow. It'll be completely done with being retrograde, and it'll be beyond where it was when it started to retrograde. So that's a clear communication, clear all of that. Yeah, if you're looking to do that, January is a good time, right after the 16th. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So Ashley, what is behind you saying, what makes you know that that's a good time?
All right. So when starting a business, oh wait, did somebody say something?
Yeah, the person.
I have a question, but I can wait.
Okay. You're up next, okay?
Sure.
So with starting a business, it's good for, first of all, Mercury to be direct and hopefully not retrograde or in its shadow if you can help it. Although sometimes with Mercury being retrograde, if it's something that you want to constantly work at or repeat, then okay, but just know that communication will be a little screwy, and sales might be a little screwy, because Mercury deals with commerce and sales. So also Venus being in a good space. Venus is the planet of money and also attracting your clients, attracting people to you, building relationships. So for Venus to be in a good place is great. Also just looking at where the moon is, because the moon is your audience. It's also your employees. So if your company has a good moon, you can have really loyal customers and great employees to work with you. And kind of those are the a new moon is always great, at least right after the new moon, maybe like the next 24, 48-ish hours, just because doing it right when the new moon hits, there's no light, and the moon has no light at that point. And so the whole thing about starting a business right after a new moon is that you want to start it while the moon is increasing in light, not when it's just completely pitch black. So, and those are kind of the top, I guess, 3 or so things to look for with when you're starting a business, kind of astrologically speaking. And also making sure, like he can't do anything about the bigger planets like Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. They're big and slow, so they're going to do what they're going to do. Also, Mars. Mars is the planet of action and energy and just doing things, how you do things. So making sure that Mars is not retrograde, make sure Mars is direct. That would be great because that keeps you moving forward. So, yeah.
That's helpful. And the young lady whose number starts with 323.
Oh yes, that's me, Danielle. I didn't get to introduce myself earlier. So I'm also sun sign Aquarius and rising sign Sagittarius. So this year's been difficult to put it quickly. But especially this last month, and like these last few weeks with Mercury being retrograde, like there's been so many communication breakdowns, and me being an Aquarius sun sign, I've kind of just like been in my cave and been sort of sitting with things and kind of waiting for the energy to pass before like really starting some difficult conversations. So I'm wondering when you think it is a good time to kind of get more into like action and more like to kind of pick up the communication and travel and some of the things that we might have put on the back burner during Mercury retrograde.
Well, I'd say since you're a Sagittarius rising, you're likely going to feel the desire to isolate and be a bit of a recluse anyway. So don't fight that too much. It's kind of like you have to strike a bit of a balance. So if you want to get out, like go ahead. Like just you don't have to be like cooped up in the house if you don't want to be. But I will say make sure that when you do step out, it's for a specific purpose.
Right.
Like or if you just want to get out and explore, because sometimes with Aquarius, especially since you're a Sag rising, kind of getting out and exploring and following your intuition and where you want to go is one of the ways that you learn. So if you kind of get the vibes like, I should go over, to this neighborhood, go and see what you can see and go from there. But I think at least just for right now, I'd say maybe over the next month or so, you'll likely, I think actually traveling will kind of break through for you at the very end of January, because there's going to be a Leo full moon and it's a lunar eclipse. And I think that's what's going to get you back into traveling, because I think that would be in the area, Leo will be in the area of your chart that deals with international travel. So that's probably what's going to pull you out and get you back in the game the way you want to be.
Okay.
And also communication wise as well, because you may find that you start to get an idea of who you really want to reach. And you may find that more people are paying attention to you than you thought, or at least a different group of people are paying attention to you than you thought. I don't know what you do exactly, but like you may find out, like, I don't know, somewhere in Brazil, like, I don't know if you have a blog or anything, but people are like reading your stuff, or like you got a big fan base somewhere or whatever. But yeah, I think probably think that lunar eclipse will kind of snatch you on up out, whether you like it or not.
Well, something to look forward to.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to ask, I guess, well, so I'm an Aries, and I am a graduating college student. I'm graduating in June. But so I was kind of wondering, like, I mean, I don't know if you'd be able to tell me too much, but just, do you know kind of like how that might, like how Saturn and everything else might play into that, like, I guess, post-graduation? So, like, you know, finding a job, finding somewhere to live, like all those like types of things that kind of I know that I'm going to be looking forward to in the coming year.
Actually, let me look at June. Well, first of all, congratulations. Yeah. Graduating college is a big step. And let's see, June. I think by June, I think you moving into the new phase in your life is going to be a bit jarring. I'll be honest. And just because going from college to then getting out to the quote unquote real world, it's interesting when you no longer have to, you know, go to school and you're able to really start to create a new life and structure for yourself. And I think for you, Saturn and Capricorn is really going to challenge you as to using that Aries, you know, impulsive energy in a different way. And you may feel like, oh my God, all these restrictions, all these rules, all this stuff, you know, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And wanting to kind of be more free. But there's this, I can't remember who tweeted it today, but I think it was Shani Nicholas. She's another astrologer that I love. And she said, the right commitments will set you free. And Saturn and Capricorn, and especially working with Aries energy, because Capricorn and Aries, they square one another. Like if you think of the signs kind of standing on four corners from each other, Aries and Capricorn kind of sit on like the other corner. And so squares indicate that there's tension that requires you to take action. So this year you'll feel a lot of tension around, you know, people saying, oh, well, what are you going to do next? Or, you know, why don't you do this? Like, you're going to find a lot of people suggesting stuff to you. Oh, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should try this, or you should try that. And you're going to look at them like, what in the world are you talking about? I don't do any of that. And so it's going to be important.
I'm like already feeling that.
Yeah. And it's going to hit you a little different after you walk the stage, because it's like, you know, you get your degree and you're feeling good, and then now everybody's like, okay, girl, what you going to do next? And you're like, oof, I'm still processing this.
Right.
So I think for you, it's going to be a challenge of you carving out your identity and allowing yourself the grace and mercy of being able to change your mind if need be. But I will say you do have to pick something that you can stick to. And it doesn't mean you have to do it for the rest of your life. It just means maybe you'll do it for the next year or two. But Saturn is interested in people making somewhat longer-ish commitments. So if you can even just commit to something for like a few years, that's enough. Because you're going to do things that lead you to the next thing.
Right. So would that be like something to like pay attention to, like knowing whatever it is that I'm deciding to do, just kind of keeping in mind that whatever commitment that I'm making, it's one that I'm more than likely going to be working within for the next few years at least?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So Ashley?
Thank you.
Yeah. Ashley, as I listen to you and all the questions, I am reminded how much we've talked together about trusting your intuition and growing your intuition. And
Indeed.
That then the astrology becomes an affirmation of things you already know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as I've been listening to everyone talking about, and as you were talking, Ashley, about, getting focused and doing the work and finding balance or a way of working that's nurturing, and some of the ways the planets move us into action. It's so aligned. The technology, the human technology, the technology of doing. I'm going to mute folks for a minute. It's so aligned with some of the technologies that we've been working with and that I've been writing and blogging about in my new book, that support us moving to mastery in many areas of our lives. And this whole energy of doing that's coming in for the next couple of years really begs for us, and it came up in some of the questions, begs us to move with consistent action and really develop the muscle or the discipline or the muscle to grind it out over time, instead of give up easily. And I'm just, I'm just sitting in the goal setting moment right now and being it's so interesting to me how things are coming in layers versus I'm usually one of those people who I know exactly what I want, and then I explore how the best, strategy on how to move forward on that, and then I'm off to doing. But something about this solstice, this winter and this fall has had me sitting in more contemplation and waiting patiently in a more patient way for clarity to be revealed. And
wait, man.
Go ahead. Ashley, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. And I love what you said about mastery. That was one of the words I forgot. Just it's definitely a season of getting into mastery and learning how to devote yourself to something and just do it, every day. That's one of the reasons I started my daily posts. I just thought, I need something, something that I can actually do and execute and do it every day and have no excuses and just make it plain and be done. And I think it's really given me, like you said, a lot of clarity around letting things unfold and giving me a sense of duty and just kind of accountability, because I know people are looking for it every day.
Right.
And it also keeps me on track. So yeah, it's and learning to just be patient, like you said, and being patient doesn't mean you have to be still. It just means you're being patient while you're working.
Yeah, you're not pushing for a result. You're allowing things to unfold. And the thing I love about your daily posts from a business perspective and also on a spiritual level as well, it's a great strategy. It gets you moving. It gives, it's consistent action on your part. And it gets your message out. It supports other people. It starts to create the impact that you want to create in your business and as part of your mission and vision. So it just does so many wonderful things with such a simple action. And I think sometimes we make things so much more complicated than they have to be.
Yes.
Instead of finding the thing that we can easily do that will make a difference, however small, daily post or, some way that we want to be in the world every day, no matter who we encounter. Every interaction. The other thing that came up for me too was this cycle you talked about around values and vision, and now moving into action. And, also the shakeup of our food systems, because, so much is going on with Mother Nature right now. She's really, I don't know how, I don't even have words for what all of these natural occurrences, whether they're the fires or the storms or the floods, are. I don't have a name on it, but and I'm really watch my words these days. I'm really so conscious of how I'm using my words and how that's creating my reality, that sometimes I just assume leave it unnamed and just say the things that Mother Nature is doing are really gonna, at some point, we're gonna feel the impact of that on our food sources. And I hope it pushes us to grow our own, participate in local food economies, because in places I notice where the only grocery store is a Walmart superstore, getting good food is challenging. Or where maybe if you're in a food desert, in a big city, getting healthy foods, fresh foods, foods that have vibrancy is challenging. And, I'm just prayerful around how we can continue to create food sources that, as things shift and change in our environment, so much of our food comes from California. And as those fires continue to burn, at some point we're going to feel the impact of what we can acquire.
Yeah. I will say, just PSA, please start stocking up on like seeds and of different varieties and whatnot. Please make sure you know kind of where the seeds came from, all that good stuff. I wouldn't be in Aquarius if I didn't give my my spiel. But
and it's good, and you can keep them in the freezer so that it's like they're in winter for a long time, and then that way when you take them out, they'll be ready to sprout. Yeah, there's so many things we used to do as human beings. Have your own garden, have a garden in the window even. Do sprouted seeds in a jar. Things like some of the things you learned in elementary school, if we can remember them, will become useful as things change. But I'm actually excited about the new year. I'm looking forward to the energy that I'm starting to feel and the possibilities. Like, even though there's a lot of change, to say the least about it, going on in our world, there's also opportunity to step boldly into the thing that we want to contribute, to the thing that we have to say or share, or the work that we're being called to do, either whether it's in our day jobs or whether it's in our volunteer time or our interaction with others in our communities. You know, we all have an opinion around our current president, but one thing that I think he's offering or the universe is offering through him is, you know, this boldly going after what you want, and not being constrained by kind of what we think other people will say or image or societal norms. I mean, there's ways in which I don't endorse some of the cutting across some of the societal norms that I see happening, and other people are speaking out as well. And there's a way in which there's the opportunity for us to say, oh, well, how am I holding myself back based on something that I imagine or something someone said or what I think is expected? And is that real? And do I actually need to do that? Or shall I make a decision to move boldly forward and move into action and do the work that I'm being called to do? So it's giving me a lot of energy and excitement for what's possible in the coming year. Well, I think, yeah, if you want to make any other statements, I think we have exceeded our time.
The only other thing I want to say is just thank you so much for having this call, and thank you all for being here. And the fact that you all signed up for this and you're here shows that you're honed in on the energy and you're really looking to maximize it. And I'm proud of you for making it thus far, because 2017 has been a doozy. So, you know, thank you all so much for being present. And yeah.
So I want to say that Ashley has some opportunities on her website, ashleydjohnson.com, for you to get more information, to get a reading. She's just, you know, I've worked with her and she's worked with me as we've coached each other on different areas in different ways. And I just want to say that you can have more of her just by going to her website, and I'll put something in the chat. I'll put her website in the chat. And I will be adding you, if you don't want me to. Adding you to my mailing list so that you can stay abreast of things that are coming that might be of support to you in the coming year. Not only these quarterly calls, but periodically we're planning some other kinds of webinars. And my new book, The Technology of Doing, Creating, and Being, we're in the midst of developing a digital course to go with that. So that might be helpful in building community around just sharing and supporting each other in these times and with these issues. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your questions and your thoughts. And you know, I look forward to seeing you all in the new year and what you're going to be doing. And so stay in touch. Let me unmute everyone. If there's any closing statements you want to say, you know, what you're taking away from our time together, please feel free. I'm gonna call on you 323. Danielle, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think it cut out for me, so I missed the last thing that you said.
I just said I'm gonna call you because it's like your box lit up and it's like you wanted to speak, but you weren't sure if it was your turn. It's kind of difficult when you're on phone.
No, I'm fine. I didn't have anything to add at this moment.
Okay. Anything particular you're taking away from our time together?
I just feel really inspired, and even though 2017 was an incredibly challenging year for me, it was my first Saturn return in my rising sign of Sagittarius, so it was a rough year, but I'm really looking forward to the new year, and I really I'm excited about what's coming, and just really grateful for all this information that you guys have given us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a closing statement as we're winding down? Yes.
This is Veronica. I'll make a closing statement. Mostly, I just want to thank you, Monika, for the generosity of these calls and your just willingness to put things out there in such a positive light and help us to find something to move, continue to move towards. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yes. Well, on that note, let's all take a deep breath and let all of the knowledge that we've gained during this hour settle in with us. The next steps is I will make this video available probably on YouTube. That's usually the easiest, and I'll send you the link within the next 24 hours in case there was some piece you missed or you want to go back to get that detail. You'll have access to that. And, just wishing each of you a wonderful time of contemplation and thought during this winter solstice, so that as the planets move and the energy shifts into the new year, you're able to move in a good way into action. So I want to thank you so much for your time, your attention, your questions, your energy, and just have a wonderful holiday. Just celebrate who you are and all that you've been through, and then let's get ready to rock and roll in January.
Okay, thanks, Monika. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Monika.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ashley, for joining us.
Yes.
This is great.
And thanks, Ashley.
Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Be safe. Be vigilant.
Bye.
Enjoy.